Hello, welcome back to Full of a Took podcast. We're here to talk about Chapter 9 at the Sign of the Prancing Pony from the Fellowship of the Ring. Thanks for joining us again. I don't know how you guys felt, but I was amped up while reading this.
Yes.
Definitely a fun one.
One of my favorites so far.
Yeah, it was good. You liked this one. You talked about that a lot while we were reading this.
I almost remembered everything that happened from 20 years ago. That's how much of an impact it left on me. I was so excited to come back to it.
So over the weekend, before I read this chapter, I went to Breland myself, and I got a job at the inn, and I am now an official employee of the Prancing Pony.
Holy shit!
And I just want to represent HR a bit here.
That's a great shirt.
That we did not allow the things that happened in here to happen on our watch. There were nefarious people involved. I just want to speak out and represent everybody. There was a lot of consent. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
We may or may not know about the things that did or did not happen.
I've talked to Knob, and I've consulted Bob.
Oh my
Turns
God, Knob, Bob, and Chris.
Turns out, all good. Consent all around.
So the last episode was Chapter 8, Fog on the Barrow Downs. So the hobbits said goodbye to their hosts Tom and Goldberry, and they start crossing the Barrow Downs, which has been explained to them as a very dangerous place. They decide to stop for lunch on top of a hill with a big stone on top of it, and they accidentally fall asleep yet again for several hours. They awaken in a thick, dark fog and are very concerned, so they take off in the direction that they think is the road, the east road that they're going to, and hope that all turns out okay. So Frodo leads the group through a pair of standing stones, and they become trapped underground in one of these barrows with a barrow wight after them. Frodo remembers that they have a rescue song that Tom taught them, and he sings it, and Tom shows up and saves the day yet again. They collect their ponies, they finally reach the east road that they were looking for, and Tom points them towards the town of Bree and a pub called the Prancing Pony. And that's where we are now.
Okay, so before we get started on the synopsis, which I'm super excited for, if you were going to give somebody a rescue song,
Ooh, okay.
what song would you have someone sing if they had to summon you for help?
Ooh, and it was to summon me. When they sang the song, I would appear and be like, ta-da!
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to go with This Is It by Huey Lewis and the News.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Laura?
Oh, I have no idea. All I can come up with is SOS by the Police.
That's perfect.
That's a good one.
For me, I'm going to go with my boy David Bowie, Heroes.
Aww.
Nice. Cotton Eye Joe.
I love that for you. Wait, is he dancing in to save the day?
It is very Tom Bombadil.
But Pat is sitting in like this dark afterlife waiting to get called, and he never gets called because no one knows the lyrics to Cotton Eye Joe. And they're like, you gotta sing it. And they're like, get up, deep, da, da. And they're like, that's not it. You're like, get up, deep, da, da. It's one of them.
Like people are like dying because of this.
Yeah, you're like, it's not it. You gotta say it better.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
I love it.
Well,
I changed mine to Enrique Iglesias, Hero. Yes, that's the better one. They're like dying in a car crash. And they're like, I could be your hero, baby.
No,
Just to make it
Mine
awkward.
to blue, dabba-dee, dabba-die.
There it is. Yeah.
that's fun.
Same reason.
I love it.
Bare Naked Ladies 1 week.
I can actually do that one.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Make somebody
Chickadee
sing
China,
that.
the Chinese chicken. That's a good one.
I would be
Yeah.
able to summon you.
Well,
No.
oh.
I know a couple people who could. They go line for line with that.
Well, they're going to be okay. Everyone else is fucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a hard one.
So, thank you for indulging me.
Yes.
And we're going to indulge me some more because welcome to my house. Because Tolkien starts this chapter with a 2-page history lesson.
Yes.
So we warned everybody not to read the prologue because that is like reading the Shire's legal code. It's interesting for some people. It's insane without context. But now we have some real hardcore world building that's delivered, I think, quick and easy. And it's important to address because it sort of sets the tone for where is Bree? Like they've made it, but where have they made it to? So what Tolkien tells us is that Bree is like sort of the like capital of Bree land, which is this little tiny, tiny country that is sort of an island in the wilderness. There's not much like cultivated land outside of this. It's a hub of like 4 villages, 4 towns around like a crossroads of the East Road, the Great East Road, and then the Greenway, which goes north-south. And so Breeland is this island at this crossroads. And it's made up of men and hobbits. And they get along in a way that Tolkien says is unique, right? It's like, it is a melding, an unprecedented melding pot of peoples because it doesn't really happen elsewhere because the Shire is like Hobbit land and there's clearly no big people there. This region, this whole region is empty. There's not a lot of people here. Breeland is the furthest west that men dwell. Like humans, tall folk, do not really dwell further west than this in large numbers. And there's a considerable distance between the Shire and the sea. But it's all more or less empty. Part of the reason for that was discussed last week when they talked about like, oh, the Fallen Kingdom in the north and all this other stuff. Bree used to be at the crossroads of a very busy world. They would get lots of travelers east and west, and they make a point of saying like, it's not that way anymore. They really don't even get like people from the Shire much. And the Shire's only like, I think they say 16 miles away, like 1 day's ride. It's like, it is not that far. You and I could walk that in a day and a half on a decent road and not kill ourselves. For all of that, Breeland is interconnected to like Buckland. They make a lot of points of saying like there's a lot of blood shared between the Hobbit populations, even though those two populations regard each other as like total goddamn strangers.
Yeah.
And that's Breeland. So this is where the hobbits are finally coming to. They've traveled, goddamn it, 16 miles from home. They're on the edge of the goddamn map.
Should have took the road.
Should have taken the road. And I made a special note in the text. It was like, by God, they've done it. It took about 146 pages for them to find somewhere outside of the Shire.
Yep. I love it.
And they're here. And what do they find? They ride up and they find this big hedge that surrounds the town because apparently hedges are the way to go. And there's a big ditch, a protective ditch, and a little bridge across it to a gate. And it's locked at night, and what do you know? They show up at night. So they get up to the gate, and there's this gatekeeper, and he is doing his job, and so he's very unfriendly to strangers, and he says, who are you? What do you want? Where are you going? And the guy's name is Harry. Frodo looks up and is like, fuck you, Harry. My business is my own. My name is my own. Maybe just open the damn door. And Harry makes a point of saying, like, you are exactly the reason I'm here. Who are you? Trying to sneak into town at night. And at this point, Mary steps in and is like, oh, well, I'm Mary Brandybuck and blah, blah, blah. And, trying to smooth things over. And Harry's like, oh, hobbits from the Shire. I know them. You can come in now. Harry makes a point of sending them to the Prancing Pony. And he says a couple of things that make Frodo feel like, well, who else has been coming through the gate or who else has been asking about hobbits? Like what there is this feeling that they're not the only strange people to arrive coming down the East Road. And they've run into this before and it's been the Black Riders every single time.
Yeah.
So as they're like walking away and Harry turns to like watch them disappear into town, this weird little shadow detaches itself and climbs up the gate and over the gate and then disappears into the shadows of town.
Yeah.
Nobody sees it. But it's there now. It's inside the town with the hobbits. But the hobbits are like, they got their eye on the prize. They're going to the Prancing Pony. Which is
Except
this big...
Sam.
Except Sam. Sam is not pleased. He's like, in his mind, he's got these like, oh, we're going to see giants that are as tall as trees and elves and dragons. And he is really not prepared for what a 3-story house looks like. Like he sees this place and he's just like, I am in a world, in a place I do not understand, and I do not have good feelings. I'm no longer interested in this enterprise.
What if we can just find some hobbits that let us stay?
Yeah, what if we just, beg to sleep on someone's floor somewhere, like in proper Hobbit fashion?
Hello.
They'll let us in.
Hello.
Excuse. Imagine like 10 o'clock at night, some strangers show up at your door and knock and are like, excuse me, we're the same height. Can we stay here?
I just picture Sam like going into the barn and being like, with like a kid holding his backpack, like, "Hi, I'm Sam."
Well, it's funny because, they have this little back and forth, and somebody's like, well, Tom Bombadil recommended the Prancing Pony, so we're going there. Plus, look at the place. It's got light, and there's noise coming out, and it's clearly occupied, and it's nice.
And they heard singing.
And
they love singing.
They love to sing.
They love singing.
And the beer is excellent. And the food is good. And the hobbits show up, and they are greeted by Barlaman Butterbur, the innkeeper of the Prancing Pony, who is, by all accounts, an important man in town because this is like the nightlife of town. This is the heart of the town in a lot of ways. And he's busy as hell. He's got like 2 plates. He's like, "Oh, hi, how you doing, guys? What's up? Blah, blah, blah. Who are you? Whatever. Introductions. So-and-so." And Frodo's like, "I am Mr. Underhill." He remembers his fake name. "And these are my friends, Merry Brandybuck, Pippin Took, and Sam Gamgee." And that struck me because, like, why the fuck would you only use one fake name?
I know. They need 4 aliases.
It's very entitled to be like, I'm the only one that must be secret.
Right? Only Baggins matters. Are you sure? Are you really sure?
Anybody who knew a Baggins maybe would be able to find the associations
They've
there.
only been best friends since birth. Now, Sam Gamgee, he's safe, sadly.
Not actually friends.
Jesus.
So he introduces himself and uses his fake name, uses everyone else's real name. And Barlaman is like, he calls the servants, Knob, who's this hobbit. Knob runs up. He's very happy. "What do you need?" And, we got to get these
Do
guys.
they call him Nobby
No.
for sure? That would be hilarious.
Harry.
Nobby is longer than Knob.
It's
Not for short.
That's true. I mean, like Dobby, but Nobby.
Well, it's
Like
Knob.
Nobby, the house.
Nobby
Hobbit.
Knob is short for Nobbert.
Nobbert.
Oh, Norbert.
Well, it's Knob, and then the other one is Bob.
Okay.
And Knob
Bob's like, it's not short for anything.
Just Bob.
just Bob. So Knob and Bob help the hobbits to
Bob is short for Barb.
Laura's gonna spit over there. So Knob and Bob, at the behest of Barlaman, set the hobbits up with like nice hobbit beds, because this place is packed. There are travelers from west, there's travelers from down back east, there's people coming up north from the south, there's dwarves, there's men, there's strangers in the dark corner we'll get to later, and there's no more like real human-sized rooms left. But there's plenty of little hobbit rooms because that's this kind of place. Like it caters to all populations because it has to, because those are the people that travel these roads more normally and in better times traveled them more readily. So they go and they have like a 45-minute meal in almost complete silence, and they devour their food.
You know that's a good meal, right? That's
Right?
the saying.
Yeah.
It's a good meal when nobody talks.
Yeah, right?
Like the food's just too good.
Like you just get in and it's like one person going, "This is really good," and everyone going, and it's just it's just knife and fork after the, yep. It's
the
great.
best.
I love it.
Some ASMR.
No, that's not how that works.
So they have this 45-minute meal in silence, and Knob and Bob come and like clear the plates up, and Barlaman is like, "If you need anything else, guys, ring the bell, and if nobody hears it, ring the bell and shout, ring and shout." And my first thought was like, yeah, there's been a lot of ringing and shouting so far in the book. This will be fun. I thought that would be funnier.
My favorite line from last week was when you were like, you go to the museum, there's hieroglyphics, and you're like, yeah, I can fucking read it. Sorry, that didn't go anywhere.
I I'm getting slightly better at reading
It
myself.
was such a Michael Scott like joke, just headed down a hole. I have no ending, so I'm just gonna keep talking.
Welcome to Life with Pat.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
love
I
that.
died laughing at that.
So after their meal, they're going to go down to the common room, and Merry and Pippin have this exchange where Pippin's like, "I'm going to go to the common room," and Pippin's like, "Mind your P's and Q's, and keep in mind we're on the down low. I'm going to go outside and just have a walk." And Pippin's like, "Well, make sure you don't get into trouble outside. It's probably safer inside." Like, honestly, points to both of them. But does anybody know what P's and Q's stands for?
Proctors and quabbles.
Yeah, all right.
Just made that shit up.
Proctors and
guessing.
Quambles. Yeah.
I was guessing.
Okay, it's a good guess. It's the only guess I've heard.
Yeah. You all want to laugh, but you didn't guess. I
Pissers
answered
and
the
quibbles.
question.
Permissions and questions? Queries?
Pissers and quibbles.
I was thinking pats and quails.
Pats and quails. Yeah, mind your pats and quails.
What does it mean? I don't know. Maybe it's a Shire thing.
So none of us actually know what
So
that
you
means.
don't even know the answer?
Hell no.
These things keep going nowhere.
It was an honest question.
So it could be proctors and quabbles.
It could be.
I could be right. I'm
not
just
put-
saying.
Anyone could be right. Probably not me, though. I know I'm not right.
So mind your P's and Q's is an expression meaning mind your manners or mind your language.
Right. Is it Latin?
It can be interpreted as be on your best behavior or watch what you're doing. There have been many attempts to explain the origin of the phrase, and one of those attempts is that there is a possible confusion when writing the lowercase letter P and the lowercase q, so you pay attention to your language.
So like, don't be dyslexic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sure.
So after the exchange, the hobbits all go down to the common room, more or less. And they are greeted by a room full of strangers, and it's a chorus of hellos and how you doing? Because this place is jumping. It's a bunch of people who are off the road. They're travelers. It's a bunch of locals. Everybody's just happy to be there, happy to be drinking, having a good time, singing songs, meeting folks, seeing old friends, exchanging weird news. It sounds like a great time. So Tolkien makes a point of saying that like the naming conventions in Bree are distinct from the Shire, not just because it's men and hobbits, but also in the kinds of names that the hobbits use. Like the men's names are the
Botanical.
botanical stuff, which is kind of fun, right? Like that tells you, like, to me, that says this is a nice place.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
very gullible, so I don't know. And so when they introduce themselves, again, it's real name, fake Underhill.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know, there are Underhills in Bree in that room, and they cannot accept that Frodo Underhill is not related to them somehow. So
Yeah.
they like treat him like a long lost cousin, and they like, come here, what do you got? Who are you related to? This is awesome. What brings you out here? And Frodo panics inside because he's like, there's only so long I cannot have a story about why I'm here, what I'm doing. And these people are not going to take fuck off for an answer.
Yeah.
So when the question finally comes, he says, well, I like history and I like geography, and everybody nods very politely, not really caring. And he says, and I'm going to write a book. And he says, and it's going to be about hobbits in the East and thereabouts. And suddenly everyone has 1,000 stories to tell him about hobbits from Bree and hobbits around Bree. And everybody's got family stories. It becomes obvious that Frodo's not going to immediately begin writing a book, and people lose interest. So eventually he's just kind of like alone off to himself while everybody goes to find better people to talk to. Unfortunately, they find Pippin. And Pippin loves to tell a story, and Pippin loves attention. And in this moment, I can relate to Pippin a lot. So Pippin starts telling very funny stories about like the mayor of Michael Delving and how the town hall collapsed. Now the town hall I thought was a very funny pun until I realized they meant it. And like the roof of town hall collapsed on the mayor.
Yeah.
And coming from a safety background, I immediately thought that that's a tragedy, but it's a comedy because apparently everyone was okay, just very dusty,
Oh my god.
which I don't believe for a heartbeat. But Yeah, that's one of those things that's funny in hindsight.
Well, they were hobbits, so the roof was only 7 feet off the ground.
Oh my god.
So it wasn't a far drop.
So Pippin's telling these funny stories, and Frodo realizes that there's a weird cloaked stranger in the corner staring at him, and he kind of like pulls Barleyman down, and he's like, "You introduced like everyone and their brother in this room to me, but you did not introduce the strange man in the corner who's been staring at me for 10 minutes." And Barleyman was, "Oh well, there's not much introducing him. That's just a ranger. Sometimes he's here, sometimes he's not. He stays away a month, a year. Always brings real weird news." So Frodo does, I think, the only thing to do in this situation, and he walks directly up to this stranger and introduces himself.
Yes.
And he's like, "Hi, I'm Mr. Underhill." And this guy is like Strider, who is in this like weather-beaten cloak and tall boots covered in mud and in dark, like natural colors. Like he is a man who is out from the wilderness.
He's a big hood on.
And he's got a huge hood and a pint of beer and a weird pipe. And he is minding his own business in the corner in the shadows.
Yeah.
So he walks right up and he's like, "Hi, I'm Frodo." And Strider's like, "Okay, Mr. Underhill. Nice to meet you. Glad you're here. But, you're probably someone who should be careful. Mr. Underhill. This ain't the Shire. And, people are definitely going to recognize the name Bilbo Baggins." And Frodo's like, "What?" And it turns out Pippin is like following up his story about the building collapse and near murder of a mayor with a story about Bilbo Baggins' birthday party and the disappearance and the whole fucking thing. And he's going through he's doing a mock speech. He's on a table and the whole goddamn thing. And Frodo is like, "You little son of a bitch." What the fuck are you up to, Pippin?
You weird attention seeker.
You son of a bitch. And Strider leans over and he's like, "So are you going to do something about this? You need to do something about this." So Frodo does the only thing he can think to do, and he jumps up on a table. And everybody all right. Because you got to think about he's only 3 feet tall, so he's like, it's not like a whole person on a table. It's like eye level for someone who's standing up. And he
Kicks his clothes off. Back to the cartwheels.
And so he begins with this speech about how nice it is to meet everybody and how good it is. And "Hi, I'm writing a book and look at me. Look right here at me." And the whole time this ring is in his pocket and he feels like he should put it on because he has this nervous habit of when he does public speaking of touching the ring, which I thought was really funny because it's a ring that makes you invisible. And I don't know about you guys, but at some point in my early 20s, I lost the ability to speak in public and I just get super fucking anxious about it. So the idea that there's a ring that I could just pop on and be like, "Nope, on out." Is awesome.
Yeah.
So the ring is this, he almost feels like it's an outside force. It's something outside of him saying, "Put on the ring, do it." And then he, to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid, clenches it in his fist and then proceeds to do this real brief, awkward speech. And he succeeded in taking all the attention off of Pippin. And he doesn't know what to do. And they don't know what he's going to do. And somebody says, "Sing us a song." "Sing us a song, dance for us, monkey." Not really, but mostly just sing us a song.
The piano man.
That's what I was trying so hard not to say it.
Oh my
got
God.
to.
And so they're like, "Sing us a goddamn song." And Frodo panics and he can only remember one song that Bilbo wrote about an inn. And it is 2 pages long. And
It's very long.
I will not recite any of it, but the man in the moon gets hammered.
Yes.
Goes to jail.
And
Fun
goes to
fact,
jail.
RJ and I sang the whole song.
We
Did you really?
Last
course
night.
you
Oh my
did.
God.
We sang the whole song because we picked up on the rhyme scheme immediately.
Okay.
with Andy Serkis, and we just sat there singing along with it as we were reading. It was so fun.
Because I got to be honest, I tried coming up with a cadence for this, and I absolutely could not.
Yeah, I have a slight video. I'll post it with this.
That's funny.
Super.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to sing along with that.
Yeah.
Which is funny because he sings the song once and he feels very accomplished. And everybody, yeah, cheers, rounds for everybody. Do it again.
And he does.
Again. and because now they know the words, they want to sing along.
Yeah.
And so he does. And well, first they also like force him to drink.
You know what this reminds me of?
Huh.
This was in my head. I know this is completely unrelated, but when I was reading this, what popped in my head was, did you guys ever see the movie The Wedding Singer
Yeah.
Many years
with
ago.
Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's in the dumpster drunk. And he has his keyboardist fill in for him at the wedding. And the keyboardist is like, do you really want to hurt me? And then they like do that whole song and they finish, make me cry. And then everyone's staring at him and he goes, 3, 4, do you really want to? And starts the song over again.
It's the only song you knew, yeah.
I just pictured that again.
The mood is exuberant. Everybody's having a great time because now Mr. Underhill is singing a song. Now they know the words. The whole bar sings along. And there's a line about like the cow jump over the moon. And Frodo does a little jump. And he missed, well, when you stand on a table and you jump, there's often things that go wrong. For Frodo in particular, this was that he misjudged and jumped and was going to land on the floor. He did land on the floor, but what everyone else saw was Frodo disappear into fucking thin air because the ring slipped on. So he hits the ground and everybody's like,
The fuck?
yeah, I am not that drunk. Where'd that guy go?
Yeah.
And there's an uproar. And now everyone is like, what the fuck just happened? What is that? People are looking at Sam and Pippin like, who are you that consorts with a sorcerer?
Right.
And like now everybody's convinced that Frodo is a magician of unknown powers and unknown designs. And like he's just this, he's Gandalf, right? But yeah, Gandalf, but nah, smaller. Small Gandalf would honestly be terrifying.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like I'm not
This
gonna.
high?
Yeah, Jesus
Hat up
Christ.
to here.
Staff up to there.
Staff is this big.
Everything else is the same size, including the beard.
It's just a rolling pin he's holding.
Aww. It's baby Gandalf.
Oh, little guy. He's gonna summon tarts.
Great.
But so everyone is now convinced that Frodo is an evil wizard and those guys are his buddies. Don't fucking touch them or talk to them. Everybody moves away. One of the guys who came up the road from the south looks shifty as fuck, is like looking around, and he meets the eye of some other like kind of shifty looking guy. And then Harry the gatekeeper is also like, the three of them are kind of like, what the fuck just happened? And they all leave out the door real fast.
Weren't
And
they from the south?
one of them was
shifty
from the
eye?
south. One of them was from
Bree.
I think Bree, and then there was Harry. So you get the impression that like they were like, what the fuck is this? But they knew something, and so they beat a track out the door. And everyone is like, are now treating the hobbits like they have the plague. Even the other hobbits are like, we don't know you. You're weird. You're the reason we have a gate at night. Harry fucked up. Frodo crawls to the corner where Strider's at and pops his ring off, and Strider turns to him and is like, so, what the fuck was that? Was that a good idea?
You shouldn't have done that,
You thought
bud.
that, yeah.
Mr. Baggins.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And then he
God.
calls him Mr. Baggins.
Dun dun dun.
He's like, you
Right.
fucked up and we got to talk later. And Frodo is like, I got 3 spies walking out the door. I got this guy talking to me. This ain't great. And then Butterbur comes back into the room and everyone is upset. And they're like, you would not believe what the fuck just happened in this house, sir. And he's like, no, tell me. And so they do. And he's like, nah, that's crazy. Nobody disappears. That's insane. And then Frodo walks out of the darkness and is like, yeah, guys, sorry. I did a little thing. I disappeared on the table and crawled to the corner. It's fine. And everyone was, if they were unhappy before, now they are fucking done. They're like, now the wizard is back. And he wants to play. No, fuck this. I'm going home.
Yep.
I do not need this. I am a grown-ass adult. I have work in the morning. I do not need wizards. And Barlaman is like, Okay, you just emptied the house. Hey, next time you're going to do tricks, let me know. Because it's important that I should know these things. Also, break fewer dishes next time. Because like when people are telling Barleyman about all this, like, oh, Mr. Underhill disappeared. And Barleyman's like, yeah, that seems insane. But also like, I don't give a shit as long as he pays before he goes. And look, there's Mr. Took right there. So I'm getting my money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. But Barleyman is basically, he is not concerned because he just like, whatever, I run like the biggest inn on the biggest crossroad in this part of the world. And like, you see shit sometimes. That thing he's been trying to remember the entire chapter suddenly comes to him and he's like, we should talk later. I got a thing to tell you. I got to clean up some, but then I'm going to come find you in your room. It's fine. Strider also catches up to Frodo and he's like, Mr. Baggins, we should talk about some things that are to your benefit as well as mine. We should talk later. And Frodo's thinking like, fuck me, who else is going to need a discussion? When do I get to go to bed?
Yeah.
And so Frodo has that thought, and then he says to Barleyman, he's like, hey, we have an early day tomorrow. I need to get to bed. I'm going to bed. Can you get the ponies ready like real early, like 8 a.m.?
It's not early at all.
I know. These fucking kids.
It is for me.
It's not early.
You
It's a slice bit.
you work from home. My wife. But yeah, so that's the chapter. It ends like that. It ends again, like Tolkien does this thing where it's like, oh, bedtime, chapter's over, kids. Go the fuck to sleep.
Yeah.
It was a cliffhanger.
It was.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Yeah. It's a
Right?
good end of it's like a good chapter to read at the end of the night because everybody goes to bed and you're like, well, I'm going to go to bed too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But did you though? I mean, I was dying.
I then stayed up for 3 hours.
Yes, I was dying to read ahead, and I cannot wait to discuss this. Before we do, we met so many new people and characters this chapter. I think we should just kind of review the main ones. So first, Barleyman Butterbur, obviously the owner of Prancing Pony. Then we have Nob and Bob. Nob's a hobbit servant of the Prancing Pony, and Bob works in the stables.
Knob it.
Then we
Is
have
Bob a human or a hobbit as well?
that has not been determined in this chapter,
Okay.
so I left it
So
vague.
Nob's a hobbit. We don't know who Bob is.
Yes, he was
Okay.
specified as a hobbit servant.
He's like working in the barn?
The stables or the
Stables.
barn. Yeah.
I don't think you would make a hobbit work with horses. That feels like
Right.
an OSHA violation.
To be continued.
A lot of them just get stepped on and squished
Yeah.
immediately.
Oh, God. Bob's not a name. It's a title.
It's a
Yeah.
Bob cake.
Barleyman doesn't even bother learning your name. You're just Bob when you work in the stables.
Yeah.
Because they don't last.
Then we have Harry, the gatekeeper.
Okay.
And then we met Strider, a mysterious ranger. And finally, Mr. Mugwort, a hobbit of Bree.
Mudward. Who was that?
Mugwort?
Yeah, Mr.
He
Mugwort.
talks to Barleyman Butterbur.
Was he Underhill?
No.
No, he was the hobbit who was like chiefly... he was the voice of all the complaints and the insanity
He
about
was leading the
surrounding
witch hunt of the sorcerer.
Oh, yes.
He was like, you would not fucking believe this. And Barleyman was like, yeah, I don't fucking believe
he
that.
was
What are
probably
you, drunk?
distantly related to Sandyman.
Yeah.
Like, they would have been besties back in the show.
I appreciate you doing this because, like, this is the first chapter in a long time where we had like a bunch of new people, and I was like kind
Yeah.
of getting lost.
Like,
I
I
was
just skipped all the surnames of the men of Bree because we never really met them.
There are more new characters in that room than I think there are old characters put together.
yeah, it was so fun. Where do we want to even dive in here?
Is it the history of Arnor?
I mean, I thought some of it was interesting. How like both the men of Bree and the hobbits of Bree are like, we have been here forever. We are the descendants of the first men
Yeah.
and the first hobbits. We've been
Yeah.
here longer than anyone else. So it's a town with some history.
Yeah, and it's actually I don't know if we want to call Gandalf one of the men. Technically, he's a wizard, and wizards probably have their own heights and sizes.
Well, is he?
But I'm sure that Gandalf is not the size of a hobbit. But
That
I'm
is
assuming
fact.
he's the size of a man.
Yes.
And so this is sort of our first big people outside of Gandalf that we meet, which is fun. It feels like in a really interesting way, the world is growing bigger.
Right.
The lands are bigger, the houses are bigger, the people, the characters are bigger. Everything's growing, and the hobbits are still small. So it's like a couple chapters ago, we were feeling even Tom Bombadil's like halfway.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's on purpose. So Tom is not quite as big. Like,
I think he did
it's like
accommodate for them.
We're sort
Yeah.
of going on like the AT&T bars up in the size of characters. You know,
The further you get from home.
yeah.
It's
And
like,
they did even specify that the men of Bree were like not that tall.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
tall
They were
for
like
men.
short for men.
Tolkien makes a point of saying that like the Rangers were taller than the men of Bree, and like that's a big theme with like these older folk, right?
Can we talk about the Rangers?
The Rangers were cool. The
I
description
would love to kick
was
off
really
there.
cool.
Yeah.
Loved the Rangers
Do
description.
you have it written? I mean, I have like a rough thing. Mine says taller, darker, but
They were described as mysterious wanderers that would go and check out all these areas that are basically totally uninhabited for like weeks, months, or years at a time. They had these crazy powers of sight and hearing, more so than men.
right. Elevated sight and elevated hearing.
But
And
this
they
is
could-
my favorite
and
part.
speak to animals.
Beasts and birds.
They could understand the language of beasts and birds.
Obviously, it says taller and darker. So taller than men
Yes.
Yes.
and darker skin wise.
Complexion, hair, eyes, that kind of stuff.
Everything. They kind
So-
of blend into the shadows more.
Are they not men?
Yeah, what
They're
are
men.
they?
They're men. Rangers are men.
Okay.
They're so in the grand scheme of things, we have hobbits, dwarves, men, and elves. And in keeping with theme, I presented them in height.
Yes.
But between men and elves is rangers.
So are they born rangers?
You get the impression
Like my father was a ranger, therefore I'm blessed with sight and
so you don't
vision
really
and stuff.
so the perception of Bree land and Bree folk of rangers is that they are men, they're people, they're human, very clearly, but they are different. They are apart. They exist in the wilderness and they sort of rotate in, they hang out, and then they leave again. And you might see them in a month, you might see them in a year. They are strangers, right? They are outside of the people of Bree. That's why to be a ranger isn't a title. It's like a group of people, but you don't really know much about them.
They're very secretive too.
Barlaman makes a point of saying that like Strider is a man of very few words. So he's kind of mysterious. But when he chooses to tell a story, it's fucking crazy.
But are you born a ranger or made a ranger?
Unclear.
Okay.
It's not
Are
a
you
profession.
born a redneck or are you made a redneck?
I mean, that's a
Right?
question
I
for...
think it's a similar thing.
Is
Like
it
we
nature
have,
versus nurture?
we
well,
have
with
different.
this though, there's an element of like not power, but almost magic. Like they
Yeah.
can commune
with nature.
with nature.
the aspect
and
of the animals communicating and the better hearing and sight makes me feel like you're born
Yeah.
a ranger, but you grow into a ranger.
You are not a job. You're not an occupation.
Right.
This isn't Bree people who like throw on some tall boots and disappear.
Well, I'm glad you say that, Pat, because I honestly was under the impression at first that a ranger was like someone who's hired to go scouting, like a scout.
Yeah.
A traditional
Yeah.
scout in a game.
You're not like a park ranger.
Yeah.
You're not a job. There's no listing for this.
Right.
These rangers they're almost like an ethnic group. They are taller and darker. They're different than the people of Bree. They live in the wilderness. They come back sometimes, and they are mysterious. And they attribute like magic powers to them and all this stuff. They are firmly outside of Bree land. They are meant
It's
to
like people
be.
who track almost, right?
Yeah. Oh, they track
Like people
like
like we
motherfuckers.
have that now, like in our world, like where people like go into the woods and they're like a bear came through here 6 hours ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And then the ranger would be like, the bear
they're
told
like,
me.
Yeah. And the ranger's the next level of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
so it's-
imagining like
it's almost like a calling.
the Middle Earth Park Service right now.
Well, so it's not though, and that's the point though, is that these are human people, right? But they do not originate from Bree.
Right.
Like nobody is related to a ranger. They are just these weirdos who come in from the wilderness. The people of Bree feel
Ranger danger. Ranger danger.
like, ooh, ranger danger it is. The people of Bree have like, they're sandwiched, they think, between two peoples. To their west is the Shire. And that's all hobbits. And like the only thing they really know of men to the east is rangers. But the rangers go east and north and south. And that's it. Like they just have these like wanderers who come in. It would be like hill folk coming into town every now and again.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, is Bree, are you guys picking up vibes that Bree is like small town? Or is it like busy little commercey area in the middle of nowhere.
Bree is, Tolkien says, 100 stone houses.
Is that big or little?
That's like 400 people.
So that's pretty
Pretty
small, right?
That's teeny tiny.
I mean,
Yeah.
compared to where we are now, yes.
Yeah, but like we live in the megalopolis on the East Coast.
yeah.
But I suspect when the northern road was busy, then it was a huge hub.
Yep.
And now
Yeah.
it's less so. You know, there's still people on the east road,
Yeah.
but there's less
Speaking of that,
traffic there.
Well,
what's up with this? Sorry.
I just real quick. This is something that'll be really fast. So early in the chapter, we had a very like ominous, mysterious thing that never got readdressed in this part. And
What?
so I'm just going to read the line, and I'd like to ask our two fools what you think it is, and we will not react.
Okay.
There are no wrong answers.
Okay.
So very early on, like 3 pages in, as soon as the hobbits meet Harry, the gatekeeper, and are going to go in, when Harry turns his back, a dark figure climbed quickly over the gate and melted into the shadows of the village street. What do you think the dark figure is?
It's Tom Bombadil.
Oh my God.
That's a great answer.
You're not being asked.
It's certainly not a Dark Rider. That I'm certain of.
Dark but no rider.
Right. Half of it is missing.
But we've seen them get off the horse and go sniffing around and be weird.
And they have been sort of creepy with that. However, I think that they would have made their move.
Really?
With witnesses?
I don't
So
think they
someone
care
can
about
see them?
witnesses. I don't think they care at all about witnesses.
Maybe.
They're riding around like a fucking ghoul. In a big costume. I don't think they
Bloodhound.
give a shit what they look like.
So who do you think it is?
I think it's Gollum.
I
Interesting.
also think it's Gollum. And I also thought it was Gollum when they crossed the river
The ferry.
into, the ferry into Buckland.
Yeah, the weird black bag on the ground.
Yeah, it was like, oh, there's like a weird black sack on the ground.
It's like a
and you
cat
guys
in a-
were like,
in a
it's a
grocery
Black
bag."
Rider. I'm like, no, that sounds more like Gollum.
So interesting. I never thought about Gollum for that.
Yeah, because like it was like, oh, a black sack on the ground.
I keep
I'm like,
forgetting
why would
about
a
Gollum,
Black
to be
Rider
honest.
look like that? Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
Betty!
Well, now we know what it's not. Everything Pat says.
So I wanted to bring up.
It's Lobelia.
Yeah, it's Lobelia. She's,
Rudolph.
she's after her
She's shaking the
spoons.
tub of dirty dishes. She's like, you motherfuckers, you will watch these.
So I want to talk about a couple of things real fast. I'm going to move quickly through some notes here. First is the Staddle.
Saddle. So that's one of the villages of Breeland.
Yes.
It's on the other side of Bree Hill. Bree is located at the bottom of Bree Hill, and Straddle is the other side where that's mostly like that's Hobbit Town.
Yeah.
And it's the oldest hobbits
yeah.
in the world. Oldest established hobbits.
That they say.
And
Yeah. So what's interesting is when these people of Bree and like you get this information out of this chapter, the hobbits in the area think they are the oldest hobbits that have ever
so
existed.
they think that they're the oldest
yeah, because they don't
hobbits.
really know.
Right.
And this chapter is important because it communicates a lot of world building undercurrents that are huge.
Yeah.
That don't necessarily play into the narrative of the hobbits and the journey that we're engaged in. But Tolkien is doing this thing where he's again alluding to this world building where it's like Bree, the Shire, west of them. Something to consider is that everything and everyone is heading west. They're running from something west.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
The elves are all going to the sea. These people are fleeing something.
They're fleeing something.
The guy says to the room at large, he's like, yeah, we are leaving. We are not the first. We won't be the last. And we need somewhere to live.
Yeah.
And the locals are like, yeah, all right. Well, maybe not here though. and he says like, we need somewhere to live and people have a right to live. And if you don't find a place for us, we will make a place for us.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really, really strongly felt such a positive feeling when I was reading that. I was like, oh, this is like, it was interesting to have somebody writing that all these different races of people deserve a seat at the table.
Right, right.
And if you do not provide space for them, I will make space for them.
Right. Like, and I think
And it's
that's,
what a fucking message to go out in 1954, considering
Yeah.
the climate
Yeah.
that was going on in that time period of the world. Well, I don't know about the world. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was post World War II.
what
Shit
we
was
knew.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really funny that like the
Americans.
Brelanders' reaction was like, oh, I don't know. But the hobbits were like, nah, well, they can't fit in hobbit holes, so whatever.
Yeah.
Like that was their thing. It's
Doesn't
like,
affect me.
yeah, they're going to ask for somewhere to live, but it ain't going to be in a hobbit hole. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's trying to communicate that there should be an established equality among people because we're all going to be running from something at some point. And so at some point, we're all going to be outsiders. And it's this really beautiful sentiment about accepting and love and welcoming people, which leads me to my next point.
did HR clear that statement?
my next point is right after writing all this, Tolkien talks about people who are scattered across the west of the world. And do you guys remember what he calls those people? Tramps.
No.
Wow, that's very British. Of
No.
him.
Hold on. No. Hold on. He's talking. Stop.
What page?
Stop. He's talking about
I
hobbits.
immediately was like the record scratch, and I was like, huh?
What page?
So, no. Hold on. It's when he's talking about hobbits. So it's like it's a very negative stereotype, but what they really mean is just like people without a home.
Of course. But it was just so funny
Well,
because
also
like
the way he says though, he goes, some doubtless were no better than tramps.
just burp.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
But I burped out of the mic.
Into my face.
Well, you know what? You can suck it up.
It tasted like tomato sauce. Did you have tomato sauce?
No.
No.
Oh, well, that's sad.
Wait, what did I have
You're
for
an
lunch?
acidic bitch.
No, but
It was
Chris,
chicken
Chicken
and
parm?
rice. No,
It was
Oh,
the
yeah.
salad dressing. It was the salad dressing probably. But
that was Caesar.
he doesn't actually call them tramps.
Yeah.
He says they were no better than tramps. It was a comparison. It's not good.
I don't know if that's good or worse.
That is a difference without distinction.
Yes.
Right. I'm trying to save him here.
So, like, the thing is that Tolkien writes in big themes, and a huge theme of all his writing is population movements. Like the elves move into Middle Earth, the humans of Middle Earth move from east to west. The hobbits kind of chill, but the point is that he makes that statement because that's true in real history too. So these population movements are as old as time.
Yeah.
It's just that we live through them only one time, right? We live our own lives, but if people will always find a place to live, I think is the point he's making. Is that you can either welcome people or you can try to push them out, but like that doesn't change the fact that they're going to end up somewhere.
Yeah.
Also, like looking at the rest of the paragraph that you were talking about, where he uses the word tramps, he's basically just describing how the hobbits of the Shire see any other hobbits out in the world, and they're outsiders and they're tramps, and they'll dig a hole in whatever hill they find. But it also specifically says, there may be more hobbits out there than there are in the Shire, and also. In the Breland, the hobbits were decent and prosperous and no more rustic than most of their distant relatives inside. So it was really just saying, like, yeah, the hobbits of the Shire are being kind of
They're like snooty.
snooty
Right,
about
yeah.
people who don't live in the Shire, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just kind of the rest of the paragraph saying, like,
Yeah.
they're not really right.
Just really cements the point of you need to travel to really fully
Right.
become like a better, more evolved person.
You know
People
who's the
are
most
people.
snooty?
Is it Laura?
People with botanical names.
I thought it was fun that they specified that the men of Bree seems to all have rather botanical names.
I love that as well.
So rushlight, goat leaf, heather toes, apple door, thistle wool, and ferny, not to mention butterbur. So these are all names that are somewhat plant-based.
I loved it.
And that's
That's
so
awesome.
cute.
Right?
So if you had to come up with a plant-based name for yourself, what would it be?
Mine would be Heather because one of my favorite books of all time, Heather, is a very prevalent theme. And
Heather Locklear, yeah.
No, Wuthering Heights. She smelled of heather because she was rolling around in it all the time.
Heather Graham, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, the Heather Toes name was so cute, but mine would be Heather.
Cute, very modern. Patrick?
I grew up way too close to the Pine Barrens,
Ooh.
so I'm going to say Pine.
Nice.
Like
Very
it's
strong.
a simple name, right? And you bend with the wind, and you do what you got to do.
I feel like you could just combine it with another word and it would be a very, Lord of the Rings name.
Pine wine.
Pine wine. Yeah. Okay.
Mary Jane.
I can't argue with it and I'm not even going to.
I'm sorry. I also just realized I was to do like a full name like they did. I guess mine would be like Heather Shade.
Okay.
Oh, Heather. Oh, coming and going. Okay. Fuck.
I didn't actually think this through before I came up with the question, but
Mrs. Bojangles.
I'm
a
feeling
great chain.
Ivy. I like Ivy. That's a fun one.
Poison ivy.
Poison ivy. No, more like an English ivy, like a creeping ivy.
I
Ivy
feel
vine.
like English ivy is a lot like poison ivy, but she drinks tea instead of wears tights.
Great visual.
Ivy
I have
Potato.
nothing to say to that.
I'm.
Is your name Ivy Potato?
Look. My name is Potato Glen.
The Potato.
No, Glen Potato.
Technically still a botanical name.
Oh my God.
Right. Hello, sir.
So when we travel to Ireland, our traveling name will be like, and he's Mr. Potato.
Oh my God, we will get fucking murdered.
Mr. Potato.
How you doing, Glenn? Glenn Potato. Good to meet you.
Glen Tater. No, I'm Glen Tater.
I call him Tater Tot for short.
Hi. Oh, I have it. There's an excavator on site. His name, he's a heavy engineering operator. Dude's about 7.5 feet tall. Ginger is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And his name is Tater.
Tater?
Tater.
That's amazing.
I don't know what his name is. It ain't fuck all to do with nothing.
Dude, that's
but they call him
fucking
Tater.
great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so like he gives us this really fun tool about flowery names, and that's kind of like that's insightful and it's interesting.
It's good writing.
It is, but he's also super aware that he's a writer.
Yes. I think you're leading up to this point where he brings up this great dig about being a writer. Frodo says he was thinking of writing a book at which there was silent astonishment. Like he just made the whole loud bar just can be like, they just like a complete, yeah.
Oh, wait, that was more Tim the Toolman Taylor than I
That was
wanted
more
it to be.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, no, honestly, yeah.
No, but he like silences the bar by stating that he's a writer. And I thought that was such a fun dig to probably what Tolkien went through in his life when people were like, what are you doing after the war? I'm writing a book about elves and hobbits. And just probably the looks on people's faces and just the...
Sure you are, Jonathan.
Right. Well, that's not his name. That's
Whatever his name is.
Oh fuck, George took a knock on the head. Poor fucker.
Too many grenades.
And it's just so funny because I found
He
that in so many of my
screams.
favorite authors. Like Agatha Christie does that all the time. There's always a writer in her
Yeah.
stories, and then the writer gets made fun of for being a writer. Like, I think this should be
That's
a
like-
really great murder
Well, we
mystery.
talked about this.
Stephen
we talked
King does
about
that.
And
this.
Stephen King does this. And so
Yeah.
all these great writers
I
keep
refuse to put-
making digs about how hard it is to be a writer in their successful books. You know
I
what I mean?
refuse.
I love that.
I refuse to put Stephen King on the same level as Tolkien. I will fight everyone.
Tolkien's better.
Including me
100%.
because
Oh,
all
yeah.
I read is Stephen King.
I will. I have fought you silently and with my heart.
Okay, cool. In this chapter, I'm continuing on my my horror thesis here that there's some spooky stuff about to happen. And so as I went through this chapter, I picked up on a lot of things that were either foreshadowing or just something that just doesn't feel right. So it started very, very quickly with when they met the gatekeeper. He was saying,
Harry.
yes,
Harry.
he was very suspicious of them.
You're a dickhead, Harry.
Particularly because there's queer folk about, and particularly because there were a group of 4 hobbits. So it was like, what has he heard about a group of 4 hobbits roaming about?
Yep.
Right? So
Yeah.
it felt like he had heard something that made him particularly suspicious of them. We also found that Barleyman Butterbur, when he first met them, he was like, a group of 4 hobbits? That reminds me of something. And like he couldn't quite put his finger on it, but they had been announced prior to their actual arrival.
I wonder by who.
Yeah. That's
honestly,
just it. I'm like, who has been here talking about them? Did the Black Riders precede them and start asking about them? I was worried about the strange party from the south.
Yep.
Yep. So I was kind of like tracking where all the different parties were coming from. When they first met Strider, when Frodo first met Strider, he goes to Barleyman and he says, "Who's that guy?" And he goes, oh, funny you should ask about him.
Yeah.
No follow-up, but, the logical follow-up would be, funny you should ask about him. He's been asking about you.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Really interesting.
Yeah, so that line, funny you should ask about him, was kind of just cut off and left there, but it's like, no, there's more there. And then the last thing that I picked up on was that those 3 suspicious gentlemen all left at the same time after Frodo pulled his disappearing trick. So it was a Breelander, one of the Southerners that was coming up from that dangerous area in the south, and the gatekeeper,
Right.
Yep.
who
Harry.
has already been a little bit suspicious of them, like he's heard something about them. So I'm just picking up on all of these little things,
Which is excellent.
that are leading to something bad is going to happen next chapter, maybe, or it's just foreshadowing, what's to come.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting, right? Because with the 3 strangers in particular, you wonder what these 3 characters who have had nothing to do with each other until that moment.
Right.
It's Frodo disappearing, and then all of a sudden these 3 people are like, "What the fuck was that?"
Let's go talk.
And they make significant eye contact, and then they fuck off.
Yeah.
Harry the gatekeeper, the guy from the south, and another Breelander, and it's like they literally have nothing to do with each other in the text until that moment. The moment Frodo does something suspicious and loud and weird is when they all of a sudden these 3 people are like, "Oh, we should talk."
So the last thing on my sort of list of shit I want to talk about is there was mention of broken crockery.
Crockery is a thing. What do you think it is? 10 words or less.
Well, crockery, when I thought about it, broken crockery at first sounds like a crock of shit.
Well,
Right. So
it does. But the direct line was frightening my customers and breaking up my Crocs with your acrobatics.
Shoes.
Breaking up my Crocs?
Wait,
That's what it is?
No. Stop right there. It means like a pot.
His shoes! His rubber shoes!
No, absolutely the fuck not.
Aw.
It's like ceramic pottery. Like when you get a French onion soup, that little pot, that's a crock.
Yes!
So a crock of shit.
Yeah.
Yes!
Imagine like
That's a real thing.
Yes.
A crock of shit is a real thing.
Only if you're very unfortunate.
It's a ceramic pot.
So put poopy inside of a little crock
Like if
pot.
somebody's giving you bullshit instead of something real.
Wouldn't they be like cast iron though?
No.
No. So
Yeah, like a clay
Frodo
pot.
literally broke dishes with his foolish jump and display.
And just because he was invisible doesn't mean that the weight of his body didn't slam onto
Exactly.
shit. And,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Not even Sauron can defeat physics.
Yeah.
He's still there.
Well, I think that's a perfect transition. We're talking about crock pots. We're talking about food and Frodo fucking all this food up. So
I need so much food.
I don't know if it's a food or a drink tonight, but I'm ready to fuck this treat up.
So from the description of what they were served when they went to the Prancing Pony, there was many items, and I decided to go for the Blackberry Tart.
Ooh.
So here we have an experimental Blackberry Tart. Never made one before. Here we
looks
go.
amazing.
Laura, what is this? What are we looking at?
It's
Is it
just
pie?
like a pie crust, like
Okay.
a short crust. Just, flour, sugar,
Blackberries?
butter. Yeah, and then blackberry filling. It's just
Okay.
blackberry,
Okay.
sugar,
Nice.
flour, and lemon.
Okay,
All right.
cool. Let's do it.
Take your places, everybody.
Thank you, Laura.
Oh, fuck.
Well, this is so
What's
good.
that flavor? Blackberry. Blackberry, yeah.
This is breakfast for the next couple of days.
I'm in.
Just throw an egg on top.
The consistency is perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Laura, that was absolutely fantastic.
Oh my god.
Thank you.
So good.
Yeah. It's hitting the spot, and I actually
it's
am going to
good.
eat about 4 more slices as soon as we're done recording this. But I just want you to know, if anybody who's interested in trying this, just like with every episode, in the show notes, Laura is so kind to take time to put together the recipe, to post it. Feel free to follow that and try it for yourself. If you do end up making it, please, God, tag us. Tag us in
We'd love
it.
to see your creation.
I want to see it. I want to see your attempt at this. Show us that you're no fool in the kitchen, please.
Yeah.
Please show me that you can make a pie crust better than I can.
Yes.
This is ugly.
Please, God. God, tell me you can. I'm just kidding. I just want to say thanks so much for tuning in this week. This has been a wonderful podcast episode. I had a blast with everybody. I just want to say that chapter 9 infused me with adventure.
Yeah, we're on the road.
And we're on the road, baby. We're moving, we're grooving. I feel like I'm in a movie theater watching it, but I'm not. And I'm reading a book, and that makes me so excited because I'm not a big reader. So I just want to say thank you, everybody who's been tuning in and watching and listening. Go subscribe to our audio channels. Go subscribe to our video channels. If you haven't seen this, we do a video version. We have a video podcast. If you're just listening, go on YouTube. Watch some of these video podcasts.
See how ugly we are.
Yeah. Whoa, I got walked into that one. Look how ugly I am.
Damn,
Everybody
girl.
else is beautiful in this. But I'll take the credit for that.
Oh,
So I just want to say thank you for that. Anyway, next week we have chapter 10? Oh. No, we're not 10 fucking chapters in.
Yes, we are.
10 chapters into the fellowship?
Yes, we are.
Holy shit. What's the name of the chapter?
Strider.
It's just called Strider?
Yeah.
God damn, I'm excited. You guys excited?
Yes.
I'm excited about this.
This was such a cliffhanger.
I must bid you all adieu.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in chapter 10. I am Christopher.
I'm Laura.
I'm Robbie Jean.
I'm Pat.
And I'm still fucking Christopher. See you later. Cheers.